Carlos Newton, Toronto, Ontario, and Karl Schmidt, the Marine from New Orleans.
I tell you, an interesting matchup here. A very accomplished international technical fighter, and Carlos Newton, having not fought since last July. Karl Schmidt, an ex-military, ex-Marine fighter who is relatively untested in the WEF. Should be an interesting matchup. Light heavyweights on the way, Newton and Schmidt, and special guest up here right now. Yeah, we're joined by Jeff Osborne of Hook and Shoot, a local Evansville, Indiana product, and a great series of fights they put on every year. Jeff, welcome. Jeff, you see the fight, what great fans you have here in Indiana. Evansville, they've had some fun so far tonight, haven't they?
I tell you what, we have some of the best fans here in the Midwest, and I feel like a winner tonight because I only had to drive 10 minutes to get here.
Well, welcome. Stick around for this fight if you would, Jeff, as we take a look at the participants making their way out onto the ring. And first of all, from Toronto, Ontario, Canada, Carlos Newton, 5'9", 176. Guy's looking to make some things happen tonight.
He has been one of the most gifted fighters, mentally and physically. He has fought for every major group, the UFC, Pride, Shuto, and now he makes his debut in the WEF.
So there's a good look at Carlos Newton, and getting ready to go. The Canadian, Newton, his strengths and his profile there you see. Gentlemen, I tell you, as we talked about, he's a very, very technical fighter. He does have a no-quit attitude. I've seen this guy go at many of the best fighters in the world. The question is his absence from no-holds-barred fighting. It's been last July since his last entry into the cage. Well, Carlos Newton is looking ahead to this fight with Karl Schmidt, but he's certainly not taking Schmidt for granted.
And I'm pretty sure he's a pretty focused and determined person, you know, given that history of his. So I'm approaching it very careful, being very careful with it. And we have about the same experience level, and we're about the same size. Only goof up I can make pretty much is not to believe in myself and take it to him.
So there was Carlos Newton, and his opponent making his way out to the octagon right now is Karl Schmidt, military man from down south. Jeff and Wade, there's a guy that has been very impressive in racking up that 5-0 record. I tell you, Karl Schmidt is a force to be reckoned with. He really comes out, he's ultra aggressive, he's able to strike from anywhere, and he's just some kind of an exciting fighter. I look for him to take this fight to Carlos Newton. As we talked about being ex-military, his conditioning regimen, if you listen to his training regimen every day, it's unbelievable. As I said, he's very, very aggressive. The question here tonight is he's untested. He's not gone up against an opponent of the worthiness of Carlos Newton. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from Karl Schmidt as he has put together that 5-0 record. And Schmidt, again, U.S. Marine Recon Squad, great kickboxing skills, and there you see a foot right there. And some big blows as well. Very aggressive is Karl Schmidt as he gets set to take on, safe to say, his toughest test so far in Carlos Newton. And Karl Schmidt is talking about the fact that Newton indeed will be tough, maybe his biggest test yet.
Definitely, this is gonna be my biggest test today. You know, like Carlos Newton, he's an outstanding fighter. You know, I have all the respect, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to come here and fight such a fighter. So this is definitely an opportunity that I didn't want to miss.
So there you go, Karl Schmidt, and there's a tail of the tape. 23 years old is Carlos Newton. He has 1 inch shorter than Karl Schmidt, and they are about 4 pounds difference. The reach very similar as well. Let's go to the ring for the introductions with TJ Thompson. TJ.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next bout scheduled for 3 5-minute rounds. The fighter on my right, wearing the white trunks trimmed in red and black. 5'9" tall, 175 pounds. From Dragon Ball Jiu-Jitsu, a 9-3 professional record, Canadian Pancration and Canadian Jiu-Jitsu champion. Trains out of the Warriors Martial Arts Center in Newmarket, Ontario, Canada. Please welcome Carlos Ronan Newton. And ladies and gentlemen, the fighter to my left wearing the black rival trunks trimmed in white. 5 foot 10 inches tall, 170 pounds. Practices Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling. A professional fighting record of 5-0. He's from New Orleans, Louisiana, Karl Schmidt.
So there you go. The introductions are complete. Schmidt and Newton getting ready to square off as referee Kip Kohler brings to the ring. Gentlemen, what do you expect to see? Is Schmidt going to try to go for the big one early on?
I think Schmidt will come out and take it to Newton. Newton's a very tactical and technical fighter. Nice left hand immediately there.
And Schmidt gets Newton down. Carlos Newton from Toronto, just outside of Toronto, we're told.
I've seen Newton in the pancreation trials earlier this year, and I must say this guy obliterated 4 straight opponents, all in under a minute by submission. You could probably look for Carlos to go for some submissions.
He's right now sitting in that guard position as Schmidt on top.
Jeff, between your video production and the amount of fights that you guys put on, you've probably seen more fights than anybody in this sport. What do you look for in a fight like this? As you see two fighters you've seen, matched up with some common opponents and etc.
As you said, Schmidt is kind of untested, whereas Newton, as I said earlier, has been in every major promotion. And there he's going for an armbar right there.
Somebody's bleeding there.
Somebody's bleeding profusely.
And that is it.
That's it.
It's over. Carlos Newton, a very, very impressive victory.
It looks as if Schmidt caught a heavy shot on the right eye. It's bleeding and is already swelling as Newton celebrates.
Well, Carlos Newton very quietly, I think the crowd even knew what happened there, Jeff. It just kind of came out of nowhere, but Karl Schmidt, the U.S. Marine, they said, maybe untested, he got a test today.
I've said this about Newton many times. He's not quick, he is sudden, and that's exactly what happened out there just then.
Let's go to the ring announcer as T.J. Thompson, stumbling into the octagon, will give us our official announcement. T.J.
Goal. Check. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner, round number 1, armbar submission, Carlos Ronan Newton.
Well, it's an armbar. It happened 112 into the scheduled 3-rounder, and Newton not done putting on a show. Here's a look at how the fight ended again at the 112 mark of the first round, gentlemen.
Well, there you see Newton trying to work that left leg through. Karl Schmidt doing a good job of defending, but finally Newton able to lock the arm and score the submission as Kip Kohler steps in.
Boy, Sutton is right. I mean, he rolled him over and it was over. There you see Newton, and yeah, some kind of happy after it was all said and done as Karl Schmidt makes his way down the ramp, as does Newton, and try to maybe get a word with Carlos Newton real quick from Toronto. Landsberg will take him backstage rather, and we'll hear from Newton in a second. Again, Jeff Osborne from the Hook and Shoot locally here. Again, great fans here in Evansville. Nice turnout here tonight as well, and it's been a lot of fun as we take a look at this great crowd here at Roberts Stadium.
It's been a great show thus far, and it's going to be a great show coming in just a few minutes.
And Wade, you couldn't ask for anything more. So we've seen it all already, and we're only halfway through.
I tell you, I was so excited about this card, and I remain so excited about this card. This is just a great series of fights, and I certainly appreciate Jeff Osborne joining us from Hook and Shoot up here in the booth.
It's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, thanks,
you,
Jeff. It's nice having you stop by as well. And sudden is what Jeff Osborne said about Carlos Newton here in this last fight against Karl Schmidt. Karl Schmidt, they said, untested. He learned a little bit as well in this fight, I think, too, as he got taken out 112 in to the first of scheduled 3 rounds. And you look at a guy like Newton and wondering a little bit of an unknown commodity, at least in this venue, but he proved himself big time.
I tell you, Carlos Newton has the reputation internationally. The only question, as I said, is his layoff since last July. I asked him that question directly in the interview, and his reply to me was that, hey, I've been gone for a year, but I've been learning during that year. And it looks as though he was able to apply it. I tell you, Karl Schmidt's a tough guy, and he really took it to him.
He did indeed. Hey, let's go backstage right now because Michael Landsberg is standing by with the winner of the last match, Carlos Newton. Michael.
Carlos and I are from the same neck of the woods, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but that was a fabulous match, and you had laid off for a year. You didn't appear to be rusty at all. Did you feel any effects of the layoff?
No, I've been training the whole time during the layoff, except for my recovery from my past event or accident. And I've just been concentrating on learning a lot of new skills, because I have a lot to learn, I know that. So every time I come in, I want to look like I have a new game, because I'm actually still a baby. You know, everyone knows I'm pretty young still, so even including you, Mikey.
Well, tell me this. First of all, it was very difficult to see the subtleties of that match. If you watch the monitor over there on the left, you're underneath, and tell me what you're thinking at that point. Was that the position that you wanted to be in?
Well, I had my shadow skill going there. That's the name of my technique. But he was loading a little bit too much heavy. I just hold it, and he went for a hook. I anticipated the hook. From there, just slowly, nice and softly move into the armbar. He didn't even know it was coming. Just nice and smooth.
Obviously, you landed a blow to his face as well, because his eye was pretty swollen pretty quick.
Thanks my boxing coach, Everton McCune. He's the best in Canada. You guys, believe in Canada, this guy's the man.
Carlos Newton, congratulations.
All right, thanks, man.
Amazing when you think of it. He's what the sport is all about. He lands the big blow, showing the boxing skills, and then down on the ground, he showed you the skills there as well. Carlos Newton with a resounding victory. Let's go back to the guys upstairs.